A small mom and pop landlord bent over backwards and jumped through all sorts of inspection hoops in order to accept a Section 8 tenant, only to have that tenant trash his property and the housing authority would do nothing. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic for you today, and it's coming out of my comments from one of my videos that I recently posted. And it actually came from my video about how most landlords are rejecting Section 8 tenants due to the nightmares of the inspection process. Now, I went over a lot of my grievances there about how much I don't like the Section 8 program, about how they kind of leave landlords hanging out to dry when you get stuck with these bad tenants, even though you had to jump through all these hoops to make sure that, hey, our property was in good enough shape for these tenants. The tenants don't have to comply, and they can just trash your place and leave you with all sorts of damage. And you know what? That's wrong. It's absolutely wrong that this happens to landlords. I do think that the housing authority should cover any damages left by these tenants up in these properties, because simply put, they're the ones who are guaranteeing the rent. They're the ones who are essentially the co-signer on the lease, okay? And if that's the case, then they should also cover the damages that these people are leaving behind. Now, I know that they're not going to do that, but that's my personal opinion. Now, there's other landlords that I've talked to, and they've had similar issues with Section 8 that I have, right? And some of them actually left comments down in the comment section. I'm going to read one of those comments for you today and, share the story from this landlord. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, okay? So if you've had issues with Section 8 tenants, feel free to leave a comment. Maybe I'll make a video about it as well, because you know what? I like sharing these stories. I want to warn people that, hey, being a landlord, it's not all, sipping champagne on the beach. There's a lot of hard work that we put in. There's a lot of risk that we take with our investments. And it is possible to lose money. Okay, especially when you're dealing in places where the tenant has more rights than the landlord. And for a lot of people across the country, that is the truth that they have to deal with when they're investing. Okay, so anyway, let's get into this comment. I'm sure you'll find this story quite interesting. Like I said before, this comment is coming from my video. Most landlords reject Section 8 tenants because that video, okay? It just came out a few days back, and the comment is coming from a user named Terry Stewart. And I'm going to read the comment and kind of go through it, and let you know what I think of the situation as I go through it. So let's get into it. My first and last Section 8 debacle was about 30 years ago. The move-in inspection happened within a week. Not bad, right? They found some stupid stuff that had to be fixed for safety reasons. The big one was the electrical outlet behind the fridge didn't have a cover plate on it. So yeah, like I mentioned before, when they did the Section 8 inspections on my property, guess what? They found all sorts of little nitpicky stuff, right? And I know what a lot of people were thinking. They're like, oh, well, no big deal. This is little nitpicky stuff, right? Well, this is a property, and I should mention, that is out of state to me, right? I can't just drive over there and replace an outlet cover or any of that, right? I have to call my property manager. My property manager hires a handyman. So all these repairs, they end up costing a lot more. And it's so small. Some of the minor complaints that they had were so small. It was just like throwing money away in order to fix them, and 99% of regular tenants would have just been like, oh, well, no big deal, no big deal. But like I said, I inherited this Section 8 tenant, and this was a re-inspection. So if I wanted to keep getting the money, then I had to pass this re-inspection. And you know what? It was just easier for me to go ahead and pay I paid over $1,000 for repairs. And, some of the stuff was caused by the tenant. You know what? Like if the smoke alarm batteries are down, right, and they're not working anymore, Well, keep in mind that, they make that beeping noise. So a lot of the times tenants will go in there and they will just remove the battery rather than hearing the beeping noise, or rather than replacing the battery. And I get dinged for it. Oh, well, you have non-functional smoke alarms in there. I'm like, non-functional, although the smoke alarms were working just fine when I bought the place, when I rehabbed the place. Well, you know what? I have to send in a handyman in there. I'm paying a handyman however many dollars an hour to go in there and change 9-volt batteries. I mean, give me a break, okay? But this is the kind of nonsense that I'm dealing with. So anyway, let me continue. I might add, this was a massive side-by-side unit in a galley kitchen so small that once the fridge was slid out, it had to be dollied completely out of the kitchen to even get behind it. So Terry Stewart here had a large refrigerator in a galley style, a long kitchen, and the only way that you could get that refrigerator or get to that electrical outlet was to push it out and then wheel it completely out of the kitchen. I mean, complete waste of time to replace an outlet cover behind a refrigerator that nobody can see. Okay? I mean, give me a break. But like I said, this is the nitpicky stuff that they want to be fixed, and they think that this is somehow going to protect the tenant from the evil landlord who didn't have an outlet cover behind the refrigerator. Okay, whatever. But you know what? That kind of stuff is part of the reason why a lot of landlords don't want to participate. They're like, you know what? If they ding me on anything, I'll just deny the tenant and move on to the next one. And I couldn't agree more, okay? Why go through all this hardship? But the story doesn't end there, okay? So yeah, about a year later, the tenant leaves. The place is full of garbage and trashed. I call for the move-out inspection. Keep in mind, upon move-in, they, the Section 8 overlords, assured me that if the tenant left any problems, no worries, they would fix it all. Right? Yeah. They're gonna come in. They're gonna fix it all if there's any sort of problems. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry you fell for that one, but it ain't gonna happen. Okay. And he figured out that wasn't gonna happen pretty quickly. I am informed that the inspectors will not be able to get there for at least 60 days. And on top of that, if they decided to do anything upon inspection, that would be about another 6 months. And no, they would not pay rent during those 8 months. My response, F you, Section 8, never again. And so, this is something that a lot of people don't realize, right? Keep in mind, just to get the initial inspection for the people to move in, it can take weeks, okay? It's not like they just come by instantly and, oh, you're approved. And, that's part of the reason why a lot of people initially, when the Section 8 tenant wants to move in, that they don't want to deal with it, because you can get a regular tenant up in there within a week or two after you list the place for lease. But it could take significantly longer if you're waiting for the Section 8 inspection, if you're waiting for your first payment from the voucher, and just that initial extra time just isn't worth it to a lot of landlords, right? On top of the hoops that you might have to jump through for the inspection and re-inspection. Okay, so yeah, I understand completely why some landlords, myself included, don't want to participate. And as I mentioned in the last video, in some cities, 70%, that's 7 out of every 10 landlords doesn't take Section 8 tenants at all. Okay. And it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse for the tenants, for the landlords who choose to continue to participate. They are going to, continue to face hardship as these housing authorities make things more difficult. The bureaucrats make things more difficult for you. And slowly over time, even more landlords are going to choose not to participate in the Section 8 program. So I like this story. Thank you to Terry Stewart for leaving a good comment in my comment section.